Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar on the Colombia TOD NAMA. We are filling up. We'll wait a couple more minutes and then get started. Thanks. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks again for joining the webinar. And I'm Steve Winkleman for the Center for Clean Air Policy. I'm going to introduce the Executive Director of CCAP, Allison Bender, to kick off the webinar. And Allison, if you can just let me know, do you see my screen and the slide of panelists?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. Yes, I do.
Great. So let me know and I'll run your slides for you.
Perfect. We can go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm here to give you a little overview about CCAP and who we are. So I can jump right in. Established in 1985, the Center for Clean Air Policy, or CCAP, is a recognized world leader in climate and air quality policy. We're headquartered in Washington, D.C. CCAP helps policymakers around the world develop, promote, and implement innovative market-based solutions to major climate, air quality, and energy problems that balance both environmental and economic interests. Our mission is to significantly advance cost-effective and pragmatic air quality and climate policy through analysis, dialogue, and education to reach a broad range of policymakers and stakeholders worldwide. Next slide, thank you. We have three kind of main areas of focus, and we see these areas as being complementary and areas that build on each other as we reach our goal to help countries meet their NDCs. So the first area is climate finance. Our climate finance program has a broad goal of supporting shifts of financial flows from brown to green. Currently, we're working with the GCF to support 9 countries around the world to build and strengthen their GCF country programs. Our services focus on financial mapping and policy analysis and assessment. And that work ranges from helping countries build their capacity within the financial system to consider climate risks and opportunities, to assessing barriers to domestic currency in climate finance. We expect to take the lessons learned and best practices back to the GCF that we learn from each of these countries to help focus their future support in such as readiness and other project funding. Our next program is the carbon markets program. And what we're trying to achieve is how carbon markets can support more ambition to NDC implementation. Currently, we're working with Chile and other countries to advance their mitigation outcomes to support implementation in hopes to help them achieve their NDC. starting in 2021, we'll be launching a series of webinars and dialogues to share the lessons learned from these pilots on topics such as baselines and additionality, and how to use cooperative approaches to overcome barriers in host countries. Thirdly, we have our sector-specific projects, and that is what brings us here today. The TOD NAMA is our flagship program. Steve and Ned will both discuss the project in more detail, but I just wanted to say that next slide. Yep. We are very proud to have originated the idea of the Colombia TOD NAMA way back in 2011. So after 9 years of support, we're very happy to have such strong partnerships with Findater and Ciudad to bring us where we are here today. The NAMA is a great example of how countries can build back better by reducing their greenhouse gas emissions while also advancing sustainable development and equity. This is our second in the series of webinars on the TOD NAMA. The first was held in Colombia, primarily for a Colombian audience. Today, we are here with an international audience, I'm happy to say, of 13 countries represented, ranging from Ecuador, India, Venezuela, Pakistan, the Philippines, and others. And tomorrow we have a second webinar with a similar agenda, but that will be in Spanish for those that are interested in hearing the webinar again, but in Spanish. So that's a brief overview of who we are, what we're going to be doing today. Steve Winkleman, who's been directing this project since its inception, will provide an introduction to the Colombia TOD NAMA and today's agenda.
Great, thanks, Allison. Again, welcome everyone. Let's tell you about what we've been doing over the last 8 years, and if I can get the slides to advance. Here we are. So really pleased to have the diverse representation from around the world, and thanks for your interest today. I'm pleased to give you an overview of what we've been doing and introduce the team. First, let's just talk about what problem are we trying to solve. That problem is that transportation and land use planning are not well integrated in Colombia, in most countries and cities in the world. And that presents a challenge and an opportunity. Colombia was well known for their bus rapid transit system, the Transmilenio in Bogota, as well as a national policy that helped replicate bus rapid transit systems across Colombian cities, with the national government spending up to 70% of the costs for those systems. But as you can see in this photo taken by my friend and colleague Carlos Pardo, this is a busy station in Bogota that the system works very well. It's very popular. It's almost efficient as a metro system in terms of how many people it can move. But if you look at the urban design around this, you can see it's more focused on moving vehicles than on people. And with transit-oriented development, we're really thinking about the experience of the pedestrian and of the person. So what happens? How do you get to the station? I've clocked it with my stopwatch. To get just across the bridge, even if there's nobody on it, it takes about 4.5 minutes to get from like the side of the street to the middle of the highway here where the station is. So that's not really thinking about the user experience. It's done because it's expedient and efficient to get the buses to move. But if you think about the experience coming out of a metro station in Paris or Washington or New York, then you walk out and you've got stores and shops and parks and housing and services, and that brings a lot of environmental benefits, because in that type of walkable neighborhood, people walk more and bike more and use public transport more and drive a lot less. And it brings economic benefits to the business owners and to the governments and to the residents of those neighborhoods. So the idea here is to better integrate transport and land use. The other piece that we're building on in Colombia was major investment, not just the $7 billion in bus rapid transit systems, but another $3 billion in social housing and major environmental goals. So we saw an opportunity to bring this all together. Now, what is TOD? Transit-oriented development focuses public and private development around public transport stations and corridors to create resilient neighborhoods where people can safely walk, live, work, shop, and play, lately called 15-minute neighborhoods or the 15-minute city. And during this time of pandemic, the idea of being able to access what you need close to your house on foot has become even more relevant. And so while I think for the short term, people don't want to get on public transport in many places, having these TOD neighborhoods, which are focused on that walkable experience, really provide healthy solutions that work during a pandemic and as we move out of it as well. TOD I like to think of as an innovative urban technology where the hardware are the transit vehicles and the rails and the sidewalks and the bike lanes and all the buildings of the shops and apartments and stores. But the software is what the NAMA has focused on. It's the planning, it's the policy framework, it's the finance mechanisms that help integrate land use and transport to reduce the need to drive. And in fact, TOD can cut driving by 50% or more. In order to do that, there's required coordination at a number of different levels. In Colombia, we've worked at the national level with the ministries of environment, housing, transportation, the National Planning Department, the National Development Bank. And of course, this needs to be coordinated with the local level, where the plans and the projects and the policies get implemented, and among local agencies, and then of course, between the public and private sector. This is about that integration to really create these neighborhoods. Now, it sounds complicated because it is. There's a lot of moving parts here, but the benefits are worth it. As Chuck and I documented 10 years ago in our book, Growing Wealthier, smart growth and transit-oriented development can help improve quality of life, health, air quality, physical activity, time spent in traffic, can help save costs for households, for governments, and importantly, and this is an important selling point in Colombia, increase return on investment, whether it's public transportation infrastructure or private real estate. So complicated, challenging, but worth pursuing. So this all kicked off in 2011 when Chuck was thinking not only about what Colombia's model of bus rapid transit, how it could be improved with work we had been doing in the US on smart growth and transit-oriented development, but also work that Ned Helm had been leading around NAMAs and saying climate finance needs to move beyond sort of just project level interventions, which are important and effective, but don't get to that broader systemic change that we need, whether it's through policy, finance, or other mechanisms. So we approached Colombia with this idea. Ned, myself, Chuck, at that point, Felipe Targa was a vice minister of transport in Colombia, later became a consultant to us to help us develop the NAMA, and it was well received. So we put together a concept note. We organized a study tour in Washington, D.C. with national and local officials from Colombia to explore different TOD neighborhoods in Washington, and importantly, to understand the different models of public and private collaboration that helped bring those neighborhoods into being. We developed a video promoting it. There was a workshop in Copenhagen on climate finance to promote it. Ned, Felipe, Chuck, and I met with mayors, with vice ministers of the presidency of Colombia to both promote the idea, but to also understand the needs and opportunities for TOD in Colombia. By the way, the week of the study tour was also the week that President Obama won his second term in office. And so it was an exciting time, an optimistic time, both in terms of policy and in climate policy. And in December of 2013 at COP19 in Warsaw, the TOD NAMA was selected for funding. And then we spent a few years with the proposal development and appraisal, and we can talk more about why that took some time. But it ended with 15 million euros from the NAMA facility, of which CCAP has been the delivery organization for the technical component for 3 million. And then KfW, you'll hear from Dirk Heinrichs in a little bit, is leading the finance component for implementation. So that's sort of how we got here. So you're hearing this introduction from me today. The manager of Ciudad, Gianfrancisco Duque, will tell you more about that important organization and the pilot projects that we've been moving forward on. Again, modeled by the idea of the Transmilenio, where you do something good in one neighborhood, and it inspires replication and informs replication. And the approach we took was to take different types of cities, different sizes, with different types of transit systems and different interventions to really create a palette of models of TOD that can inform replication, which Pablo Alejandro Montenegro will talk about. He's CUDOT's mobility expert and policy expert, and we'll be talking about the policy package that we put together along with our consultants, Sigma Despacio, to provide capacity building, incentives, and set the path toward regulatory requirements for TOD in what I think is an unprecedented international model for a TOD policy framework that integrates transportation, housing, urban planning, climate change, and finance. I've never seen a model like this in the world, and if there is something else, please let me know. We'd love to learn from it. Chuck Kuchian, CCAP Senior Transportation Policy Analyst, will talk about the monitoring and evaluation system for the NAMA. And this is certainly about reporting greenhouse gas emissions to the funders, to the National Environmental Ministry, but even more importantly, it's about providing relevant information for the local implementers to help them improve the performance of their TOD projects and policies. Ned Helm, CCAP's founder, will talk about what it took to get to the starting line. Ned put so much energy and passion into making this happen, into fiercely advocating for it and making sure that it was a good, solid proposal. And he'll share about some of that experience. And finally, our colleague, Professor Dirk Heinrichs from KfW, who will talk about the financial component to get from pre-feasibility of the pilot project to finance and implementation. Now, the goal of this NAMA is not modest. It's to transform urban development in Colombia to a TOD model because of the greenhouse gas benefits, because of the social and environmental and economic benefits that I talked about. Doing that by fostering policy and market conditions for public and private investment in TOD. Now, Chuck had this great image in 2012 of this cocinero making the sancocho, this Colombian stew, with the idea of, you know, all the ingredients are there for TOD, but there's a need for this body, for this cocinero, this chef, to bring them together, to add sort of the secret sauce and spices in order to really bring this about. And I have to say that I'm very proud of CUDOT. It's the most important success of the NAMA, and it's really the legacy of the NAMA. This accomplishment is demonstrated by the fact that CUDOT staff have nationally and internationally recognized expertise and capacity on TOD. They've fostered strong interministerial collaboration through the advisory committee and through the CUDOT board, which is, John will tell you more about, which provides a continuing high-level national government commitment to TOD. And I can think of no stronger validation of CUDOT's reputation than the fact that the head of the Metro de Bogotá, Bogotá's new metro company that is building probably the most anticipated and important infrastructure project in Colombia, a $5 billion project, approached CUDOT for support with planning, finance, and implementation of TOD, and they're happy with the pre-feasibility study that we did for them. I want to thank my colleagues at CUDOT and Findeter for such a fruitful and constructive collaboration. It's been a lot of fun. It's been challenging, and I'm pleased with where we've gotten. Thanks for putting up with both my bad Spanish and my jokes that have been even worse. And congratulations on what you've done so far. Wish suerte, best of luck to CUDOT, to KfW as you move to the next phase of implementing the pilot projects and continue to realize the full vision of the NAMA. So muchísimas gracias, thank you, and I'll turn to John now. Chuck, if you can swing it over to him to tell you more about CUDOT. Thanks.
Okay, so let me turn my camera on. So can you confirm that, are you seeing my screen? Is everything in order?
All good.
Perfect. So, okay, thank you. Thank you, Steve, for everything that you have said about the program. It's pretty interesting where we are, where we are standing right now. My name is Gian Francisco Duque. I have been the coordinator of the program for the past 3 years. I'm very pleased to be here, and thank you all for coming and join us and know about the results of the implementation of this program. As you know well, we are implementing the Colombia TOD NAMA, Transit-Oriented Development NAMA. It's Pablo and I, two of the speakers today, we are part of the technical staff that is located in Findeter. Findeter is, before coming into detail about the NAMA, Findeter is a development bank here in Colombia. It's a public-private development bank here and is like the implementator of the program. What about the NAMA for you, for some of you that are not familiar with the term about the NAMA, what is NAMA? It's any action in a specific economic sector that reduce greenhouse gas emissions in developing countries. Once you get the title of NAMA, you are able to get funds from corporation entities in order to implement this your initiative. In Colombia, we have several NAMAs in implement. We are implementing some other NAMAs. In Findeter, we have a NAMA Move, that is electric mobility NAMA. The NAMA urban. Well, I forgot the name in English. NAMA Residuos Sólidos, that is also Findeter is working on it. We have the NAMA de la Panela, that is a beverage here. We have the air conditioning NAMA here in Colombia as well. Well, there is different NAMAs for the specific sector you want to implement to reduce greenhouse. The NAMA that we are working today was the TO Transit-Oriented Development NAMA. That's a concept that Steve already presented. We base our implementation NAMA in the 8 principles of TOD that are looking for people to walk, to use the bicycle, to use transit as transport, to look for neighborhoods with mixed land uses, compact neighborhoods with high density around transit stations in order to easily connect, and all of these measures in order to shift the use of private vehicles in order to more sustainable mobility. Here I show you a sketch of what we think a TOD neighborhood could look like. We have prioritized the public space, a very quality public space, in order to encourage people to walk, to use bicycles, to use transit as if it is a bus or is a tram, of half of the facilities in order to use a bicycle as parking station for bicycles. We presented different type of buildings here in order to present the mixed use we want in order to encourage people to work, live, study, enjoy the area, and avoid the travels to or outside the neighborhood, the TOD neighborhood. So how is the implementation of the Colombia TOD NAMA in Colombia? Well, in order to implement the program or to present the proposal to the NAMA facility, Colombia created an instance that is called Ciudad, Centro para Intervenciones Urbanas de Desarrollo Avanzado Transporte. This instance joins the Ministry of Housing, Transport, Environment, the National Planning Department, and Findeter with CCAP. In order to create the proposal, we presented the proposal to the NAMA facility. The NAMA facility granted the proposal with 14.7 million euros, and in 2 different components. One that is the technical component that we worked with CCAP, and the other one that is the financial component that is with KfW. Our goal is to formulate implementing strategies in urban projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and also to create public policy recommendations in order to promote TOD all over Colombian neighborhoods. Because our main goal is to change the urban Colombian traditional urban model to a TOD model, and in this way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This is like the sketch of the graph that shows how is the 2 components work. We were granted with 3 million euros for the technical component, and that was worked with CCAP. The main results we wanted was the pre-feasibility studies. At least we need to establish 3 pilot projects. Today we are working with 4 cities. We are working with Cali, Pasto, Manizales. Cali and Pasto are intermediate, medium-sized cities. Cali and Bogota right now is the last one we have. And we also have a study of monitoring and evaluation, and that is the one that wants to create the system for monitoring the impacts of the implementation of the program. And the last one is a policy study that looks for to create the policies to promote TOD all over national territory. The financial component that it's around 11.7 million euros. It's more focused in the implementation of the pilot cities. So most of the funds we have there are for the for a credit line to build the pilot projects. That is our intention to start next year. So about the results of the pre-feasibility, as I told you, we have worked with in the beginning with 3 cities, Pasto, Cali, and Manizales. I will start with Pasto. The Pasto, the urban development model of the city is called superblocks. It's something like you can find in Barcelona, for example, where you have these bigger blocks, these big blocks of and you try to take the traffic outside these big blocks, and calm traffic strategies are inside these big blocks of squares. This is the urban model of the city. We want to implement the first blocks of super blocks in Pasto. As you see here is the downtown. This is the map of Pasto. This is the downtown area of Pasto. I don't know if you are seeing my cursor. Well, maybe.
Yeah, we see it, John.
Yeah, I wanted to change it like this. This is the downtown area of Pasto. This is the north part of the downtown area. This is the area we've selected as a pilot neighborhood. You can see here. It's around 107 hectares. It's around 22,000 people live there. We want to the interventions that we identified for this area. It's traffic calming strategies, prioritize pedestrian, bicycle, and transit infrastructure, densification of some transit corridors, and to promote mixed land use in some of the areas already there. This is the 5 prioritized interventions. The first one is the Regeneración Urbana Calle 16, urban renewal of 16th Street. It's around his area. We want mixed land use to improve quality of the public space. And the second one is Boulevard Carrera 32, as in the same way, mixed land use to improve density of the area. And the number 3 is Corredor Ecológico Migitayo. This is a green corridor, this zigzag you see here, that will connect the Carrera 27, this area, with the Parque Río Pasto. This is a linear urban park around the river here. And also this is quite important because the track you see here follows a path that an old river that used to be there. So it's like trying to remember this old river that was there. The number 4 is the densification of 20th Street, this area around here. And the number 5 is urban renewal from the north side of the Carrera 27, this area here. The Carrera 27, this avenue here, was already intervened by the municipal entities, but it created a lot of land plots that we want to use for the urban renewal of this side of the avenue. Now I will show you some renders of how we think these results might be. So this is the Corredor Ecológico Migitayo, and this is our proposal. We want to create better public space for the people, to remove barriers like you used to see here in order to connect more easily the area, a separate line for bicycles, and also improve the green coverage of the area. And the second one here you can see is the Carrera 27. And as well, we want to improve the quality of the urban space for pedestrians, for bicycles, reduce the streets for private cars, and in this way also to boost the development of the area. The second project we have is the Manizales. It's a medium-sized city in the middle of Colombia. The project called the Centro Renace because they want to redevelop the downtown area that was losing a lot of inhabitants in the past years. It's a pretty consolidated area. It has a lot of mixed land use already, but the only thing that they are missing is residents. So they want to attract a lot of people from Manizales to live there again. In that order, they prioritize it some urban interventions in order to make it more attractive for pedestrian, for bicycle use, and to reduce also as well the use of private cars. So you can see here is the historic downtown. The historic downtown has this avenue, Gilberto Alzate Avendaño, that divides the downtown, the north and south part of the downtown into very different neighborhoods. This area has not been so deteriorated, but this area in the north part is very deteriorated. So we want to create also the connections between the north and the south part of the downtown. In that order, we prioritize it, and this area is around 71 hectares, and only live there 10,000 people. So we prioritize these 6 interventions. As I told you, one of the main goals was to connect again the north part of the downtown with the south part of the downtown. And the prioritized interventions was the first one is the pedestrianization of the Carrera 23, this carrera here. This area here, it's already semi-pedestrian, but we want to pedestrianize and only for pedestrians and bicycles, and we will semi-pedestrianize like just a lane for private cars in here until here to 19th Street. The second project is the connection between Manizales University with the downtown through the Boulevard Universidad Manizales. This here. The third one, we want to connect the old market square that used to be. It is there. There are already 4 buildings here that with a lot of historic and patrimonial value. We want to connect it again with the downtown area through this project. The fourth one is also the connection between the macro proyecto San Jose. This area here that we are not showing anything, but this area is a macro projecto. With a macro projecto, I mean this area is a project from the national government to create housing, low-income housing for Manizales, but it's not like it is a national government project. It is not from the municipal entities here. It's from the Manizales entities. They are not jurisdiction in this area. The only thing that we propose here is also a connection between the macro proyecto San Jose and the downtown area. The 5 is densification around Avenida Carrera 18, around this avenue. It's just 8 blocks here. We want to increase density here through higher, taller buildings around the avenue, and also because there is only here 2 to 3 stories buildings here, and also this is like a sector, construction, sales, retail sales sector. So it's pretty organized. It's quite easy to work with the people that already live there in order to make this urban renewal intervention in the area. The 6th one is just this one to create the pedestrian area around the Plaza de Bolívar, that is the central square of Manizales. And this is like this is how it looks now. The Calle 19, Boulevard Universidad Manizales. Our proposal is also to create a bicycle line for the bicycles and to improve the infrastructure for pedestrians. And the next one is Carrera 23, la pedestrianization of Carrera 23. This is how it looks today. As you see, well, it's just a lane for cars and very narrow pedestrian paths. And we want to create this kind of urban path where you can see a lot of space for pedestrians and also used for bicycles. This is the current path. This is how it looks today, the part of the area that is already semi-pedestrianized. And the last city, well, the last from the three first ones is Cali, Centralia Sostenible del Sur. Cali is a bigger city, it has more of 2 million inhabitants. As you can see here is the map of Cali, and in difference of the two other projects that we choose that were around the downtown or close to downtown, this area was in the south area of the city. That is an area, it's an area that is being currently developed and it's being built right now. It's around 200 hectares, around 13,000 people. There's not a lot of residents there. It has a lot of difficulties here, as you see. Well, yeah, and also there are a lot of projects that are already coming to the area. This line here shows a green corridor of the city. It's a project where they want to renew a train that already goes through there, but they want to use it as a tram around inside the city and to connect it to the the other towns in the south side of outside of Cali. Also, well, there are a lot of construction there. There are a lot of developers, urban developers in the area. So when we came to the area, we made the diagnostics. We found a lot of complications in the way that all the builders already have the license to build the type of constructions they wanted there. So we have no very narrow path of the interventions we want to create for the area. And for that reason, we end up with this proposal in the area. That is the Sendero Ecológico del Río Lili. The Sendero Ecológico Río Lili is a green corridor that uses the zones around the river Lili here. We want to improve the connections. As you see, this Calle 25 here, the 25th Street, this avenue that already have the project of the green corridor here, and divides the area in two, in east and west, and there is no easy connection between these two sides. So we wanted to improve those connections. In order to do that, we created this. We wanted to use the river path for that and to create a pedestrian areas and also bicycle path to connect the areas. This project is well, Cali, the municipality of Cali is quite interested in the project, and so they continue to develop the project, and they already have this part of this area of the project. They already have in feasibility already. They have worked with funds from other corporations, and they even enlarge the project to connect it to other parts of the city, to the, I don't know, to the east side of the city. So this is like a sketch of the proposal we want to create around the river. As you see, a lot of public space, a pedestrian path, and a bicycle path as well. This was the only the main proposal for Cali. I show you these three projects apart because they were developed by one consultancy, by IDOM. They developed the three projects in the same time. The three projects presents a lot of things in common. So all the three projects prioritize modes of active mobility. They all created safe corridors for bicycle users, improvements in pedestrian infrastructure. We want to encourage social integration. All the projects included increasing vegetation cover, reductions between the 7 and 9% of greenhouse gas emissions, mitigation of noise pollution between 5 and 8 decibels, we wanted to reestablish some city connections. As example, I show you in Cali with the Sendero Ecológico connection between the east and the west. In Manizales to connect the north and the south sides of the downtown area as well in 3 different areas. We want to promote sustainable means of transport, promote mixed land uses, and with all this intervention, the prioritized intervention, we estimate that we can leverage private investment around 5.5 billions of Colombian pesos. It is something around, let me think, 2,000 million, no, around 2,000 million US dollars, something to 1.5 thousand million US dollars in private investment in the area. With all of this, we don't want to forget that these are the first pilot projects, and our intention is to shift the model, the urban development model of Colombia to TOD. In order to do that, we count in the replication of these projects, and with the replication of projects, we estimate we can reduce around 3.6 to 5.4 millions of metric tons of CO2. The last project that I will show you is the project that we're working today with the Metro Company of Bogota. Is the most interesting project here. In a way that this is a project that comes around to an already existing BRT station, the Portal de las Américas, and it also includes the project of the metro system of Bogota, and it's called Portal de las Américas del Metro Bogotá. The area is in the southwest part of the city. It's an area that had a lot of problems, that had a lot of yes, it's a difficult area to work with because it has it's the highest density area in Bogota. It's a low income area it's an area was created by initially created as illegal development, like a slums, but today most of the area are legalized anyway. But that way of development created a lot of deficiencies there. Like there is not a public space, and there is not a lot of parks or green coverage. The blocks are very narrow, the plots are also very small. So the area has a lot of potential as well, because we already have a mass transit service with the Portal de las Américas of Transmilenio, the BRT bus systems that works in Bogota. They will have the mass transit station of the metro system. They already is served by the SATP, the transit bus system of the city as well. Has a higher density of the Bogota. It's in the area. We have around 70,000 people in 165 hectares. Also in the diagnostic of the area, we find that we have a demographic bonus. What we mean with that? We have a lot of young people that is able to work, and that should be that we can use. We can not use is not the word. We can take that potential of the demographic bonus to boost the economic and social development of the area if we provide with the specific tools, with the specific technical education or university education that is not already in the area. Also, there is no equipment as public space deficit, and well, despite of that, already count with a sustainable mobility. A lot of people there already uses their bicycle to move, or Transmilenio system as well. So the proposal in this area is urban renewal and redevelopment interventions in some parts of the area that the consultant find that were very interesting to redevelop there, and also well to help to boost the development with the metro system intervention. There's also something that is worth saying here is the new metro company of Bogota. It was already created with some real estate management capabilities. So some of the intervention proposed here inside this direct intervention area, direct influence areas. Most of the interventions that we propose in this area, that is direct in the direct intervention area of the metro system, that the metro is here, can be developed by the metro company. So in order to use that capabilities of the metro company, that we propose this type of interventions. So as you see here is a 3D map of the area, of how is the area. Like I was telling you, these small plots and kind of unarranged development here, it shows that it was created like a slums in the beginning. And this is more, this path shows that it was developed by developers later, like around 2000, the year 2000 and on. And the proposed interventions here, this area, this complete area is the Portal de las Américas, already the Portal, the metro, the Transmilenio station. Here's are the sidewalks for the Transmilenio portals. This will be the metro station. And this area here is for parking of the buses of the Transmilenio. Our main proposal here, well, will be to use this land plot that is already empty here for the metro company to develop this area and to create 4 projects, 4 real estate projects in these areas. They call it strategic interventions that I show here. The first one is in the land plot of the Portal de las Américas. The second one is in front of the metro station in Patio Bonito. This is the name of the neighborhood. The third one will be an intervention here called Britalia, the name of this neighborhood. And the fourth one is just in front of the Portal de las Américas, which is called Villa de la Loma. In total, we expect to boost the real estate development of the area in creating around 90,000 square meters of social housing. We have also called interés prioritario priority social housing for around 7,000 square meters. And 16,000 square meters for vivienda no bis. It refers housing is regular housing. We also there is a lot of mixed use already in the area, but we want to boost the mixed use already to create 23,000 square meters of commerce and 70,000 meters of industry and services, mostly services. Because the area, well, we found in the area that there are a lot of small businesses, a lot of residents as well, but there is no universities, there is no health care centers or hospitals, schools, and this kind of services for the area. So that's one we want to improve in the area. So all this intervention is proposed through a plan parcial, in which we want to also boost to promote the sustainable means of transport, to create bicycle paths, ciclorutas, to boost the conditions of the sidewalks, also to pedestrianize some areas around the neighborhood, and to equip the area with some services they don't have right now, like a SENA. SENA is like a university for technical capabilities. We want to improve the existing parks, to create a market square, a cultural park, city services like a CADE, and also school, well, all the services that we didn't find in the area, but we know for sure that they are required. With all these proposals, and we have estimated a potential real estate development around the 1.4 billion Colombian pesos, is around 300,000. Around, well, let me check. Yeah, 300 million US dollars, something, between 300 and 400 million US dollars in the area. This corresponds plusvalía, maybe I don't know the translation, but this land value capture in the area that that could be taken by the district around 122,000 million. This is around 40 million US dollars. This can leverage and help to sustain the transport system, a metro system, and the metro in principally the metro, because well, as you see, the metro is a company that we are working with, and they are the ones who have the real estate development capabilities to develop this project. This is a render of how we think the area. As I told you, the Transmilenio portal here, and the metro system here, and the urban development that it's already existing. This is the kind of model we have already in the area, and this is our proposal. And this is the Patio Bonito strategic intervention that we propose. This is Villa de la Loma strategic intervention with the creation of parks, the creation of real estate development with mixed use. As you see here, we try to create buildings with mixed use that can serve to residents, to housing, for services, and for commerce as well. And that's all. Thank you. I would like to mention something. We already are working with another city as well. We are working with Medellin. They have developed their own pre-feasibility studies with their own resources, and we are making all the steps in order to include Medellin as a 5 pilot city of the project, and it will be also a pretty interesting project as well as the Bogota one. And thank you all for hearing me with my English problems sometimes.
John, thank you very much. Now you know what it feels like for me to present in Spanish, but your English is much better than my Spanish. So thanks. I'm going to turn it over now to Pablo Alejandro Montenegro to tell us about the policy recommendations.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you and see the screen. Just put in slideshow presentation mode right now, and then
we'll try to turn on my camera. Can you see me now?
Yes, it's in the preview mode. If you can put it on slideshow.
Let me check.
No, just go for it. Don't,
yeah.
Don't worry about it.
I think.
While Pablo's setting up, I'll tell you, before he came to Ciudad, he was at the National Planning Department, and so has a really good perspective on policy development in Colombia, integrating across the different ministries, and we're good to go.
Thank you, Steve. Can you watch my presentation now?
Good.
Perfect. Well, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to me to be with you today. I'm Pablo Alejandro Montenegro, and I am the mobility expert of the Ciudad team in Findeter. I have more than 10 years of experience in the planning, structuring, and implementation of sustainable transport projects in the country, working in public entities, as Steve told you, at both national and regional levels. So I don't know what happened here. Yeah. Well, today I will share with you a very executive summary of the results of the study of guidelines and recommendation of policy to promote TOD initiatives in Colombia. This is a work of CCAP, Ciudad, with the consultant. It was Consorcio Sigma de Espacio. Well, when we asked about the best way to approach a formulation of policy guidelines and recommendations to promote DOTs in Colombia, we are faced with a first question or a questions. What is DOT or first TOD? Next, I will try to explain you why you see dots. But well, the first one is what is TOD? How do we understand the TOD principles? How do we land the TOD concept for Colombia context? Well, we know that transit-oriented development, TOD, is an urban development model that integrates urban planning and mobility to improve people's quality of life and exchange their access to goods and the service offered by the city. So the TOD model is developed around stations and main transport corridors with high passengers demand. Well, you can watch a model in the presentation, a typical model of TOD. In this way, TOD aims to decrease the need to use single passenger modes of transportation and reduce negative impacts in the environment on a global and local scale. For example, GHG emissions, noise, and emissions of air pollutants. Through the generation of safe public spaces with a high quality design, better densities, and a mix of land uses and activities, TOD promotes social, economic, and sustainable development. In this sense, dots. Now we can talk about dots, not TOD. Dots, something like sustainable transport-oriented development in Spanish, is the approach that we have made for Colombia of the well-known TOD, understanding the opportunity to apply TOD concepts to the context of Colombian cities, seeking a new development model that favors and at the same time takes advantage of the different sustainable transport modes, not just transit as the original concept TOD. We talk about walking and cycling, as you can watch in the Jan's presentation. Well, for the Colombian case, we wanted to address the DOTS policy or TOD policy proposal under the following 5 dimensions. The 5 dimensions you can see which function as an effective mathematical formula to integrate TOD components and the principles, TOD principles in the context of our cities in the country. So we have urban development and territory planning, plus sustainable mobility, to take advantage of environmental, social, and economic components. Well, I think that we could consider DOT as the vaccine that prevents an efficient and sustainable occupation of the land, which ends up infecting components such as mobility, generating congestion, polluting, and accidents. By the way, now we talk a lot about vaccines. Well, okay. Once the concept was understood and contextualized, it was necessary to make a diagnosis of the political, normative, and institutional framework in Colombia to identify needs, strengths, and the opportunities for the promotion of DOTS initiatives in the country. In this way, the main finding we found with the consultant is an important disarticulation between sectoral policies and actions, mainly between transport and housing, both national and locally. Jan tell us about the urban transportation policy about transit, and we have to the Misión de Ciudades as opportunities to grow up in the sector in a sustainable way, but it was in the disjointed way. Okay, so we have two main found. There is a political, regulatory, and institutional framework that includes those components, but it wasn't formulated and implemented in a comprehensive way. So we have low integration in the planning of land use and mobility systems. The big conclusions: to develop a national DOTS policy, there is no need to modify the existing legal framework, but there is an opportunity to suggest mechanisms to articulate tools in the territory through intersectorial actions. As we said, transport, housing, environment, and others. Well, TOD policy look for develop strategies and lead initiatives that change the planning process in Colombian cities through the integration of urban growth and sustainable modes of transportation, as we said. So in this slide, we can see the TOD policies objectives that contribute to the accomplishment of the current national Colombian National Development Plan and the NDCs. You can see like a cycle from the policy planning and investing to activities of urban planning in the implementation of the actions, and finally verify the reduction of BKT and GHG emissions. These 8 objectives can be reached by this toolbox TOD policy. This is the strategies that we work with the consultant as a tool to fulfill the objectives of the TOD policy. So we have the big one, the big box with the policy review as a need of articulation of national housing and transportation policies to promote TOD. Motivate the inclusion of TOD in local planning plus is like the key action to promote this articulation. Then we have the financial incentives that are aimed at motivating both municipalities and the private sector to develop those projects. In the case of municipalities, the strategy gradually seeks to increase the co-financing percentage as those components are included in the projects, both in transportation or housing projects. Okay, in the case of the private sector, it's proposed to structure projects through development banks, direct credit lines, or rediscount for projects guaranteed with benefits on the rate and the term of the projects according to the degree of TOD components included. Likewise, it is suggested to consider the application of value capture mechanisms to finance to the project too. Okay, to make it possible, we need a responsible. This is the TOD unit. We have the formalization of a technical group within the national government to lead, coordinate, and assess the policy. This group or unit will not formulate the policy, which is the responsibility of each ministry that is involved in TOD policy, Ministry of Transport, Environment, Housing, or it could be a responsibility of instances such as Ciudad. Jan explained as what is Ciudad, that integrates this ministry, for example. The role and functions for this TOD unit could be, for example, in public policy, lead, coordinate, and evaluate TOD policy. Maybe supporting the local governments in the development of TOD initiatives and projects. About knowledge management, this unit could build capacities at the national and local levels, carry out activities and create TOD outreach materials, manage the bank of projects, what is the next box, and take advantage of the monitoring and evaluation systems to try to make the policy and evaluation of the policy and the success of the implementation of this policy. And the financing, this unit can advise territories to access the national resource and develop strategies to attract private investment. Okay, the next tool box is the Bankos project. Currently, there are no projects that include TOD elements comprehensively. In this direction, the creation of a TOD bank of projects will allow to design and implementation of these projects in such a way that it fits the technical, legal, and financial conditions needed to implement the projects in the territories, accomplishing the models to the principles. Okay, the final box is the monitoring and evaluation. The monitoring and evaluation functions in the hands of the TOD unit are proposed in two aspects. First, from indicators of the policy for implementation accompanying, and second, from the project's results in indicators using the M&E MRV system. M&E as a tool that allows to quantify the progress in the execution of projects and the impacts of their implementation to guide sustainable urban planning. And the MRV, the monitoring, reporting, and verification system that works to follow up on the reduction of GHG emissions generated by a specific intervention of project. Chuck will deepen this topic in the following presentation after me. Okay, with these instruments, we have a proposal from the consultant to have a compass document, a policy document in Colombia that have the framework to implement the policy in the country. With all this, a roadmap is finally proposed where the strategic proposals can be completed in a short time, to 1 or 2 years, medium 2 to 4 years, and a long time, more than 4 years. It can be through the compass document or in an independent way, but the main recommendation consultant has made is the approval of a document, the compass document. For this study, we have built a draft of the compass document. Let's remember that what is the compass document. How I said, is a document that contains, for different issues, the policy framework approved by the National Council of Economic and Social Policy for Colombia, which is made up of the ministries. So we have 2 alternatives of the in the short term. First, that the DOTS policy could be approved by Compass, including as policy, among others, the recommendations presented. And second, continue with the implementation of the Colombia TOD NAMA. So we could some retos, I don't know how to say it, retos, to continuity the program. In the long term, it would seek to include the DOTS policy in the National Development Plan 2022-2025 as a state policy, ensuring its continuity and replicability. Well, this is what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and excuse me for my English. I made my best.
Pablo, thank you very much. It was great, and appreciate the presentation. Let me switch over to Chuck, and he'll talk about the monitoring and evaluation. Thanks again, Pablo.
Greetings, everybody. As you can see, we have a very complex NAMA. How can we possibly keep track of all this? Well, I don't have time to explain all of that because we're probably running a little bit late, but I do want to whet your appetite for measurement and evaluation because every NAMA needs to keep track of their GHG effects, of course, but the Colombia Transit-Oriented Development NAMA, we went beyond this goal and created a system, as Pablo was mentioning, that you can measure and evaluate the progress and performance as you implement the NAMA. And this is something because all the cities are working separately and together at the same time, right? We need a way for everyone to keep track and learn from each other. On the greenhouse gas side, Colombia's NDC was to reduce 20% from business as usual by 2030. And what was business as usual? Increasing motorization, more private vehicles, longer trip lengths, old fleet, especially in the transit. So there's a big pull here on the transport sector. The TOD NAMA has a lot of different things that can help reduce transportation greenhouse gases, but they're not all transportation interventions. As you saw, most of this is real estate development and integration of transport with growth. And the final goal of this is actually to create neighborhoods that not only reduce greenhouse gases, but provide quality of life co-benefits. So how are we going to monitor all of this stuff? Well, there are a lot of different dimensions. And CCAP and CUDOT hired World Wildlife Federation Hill Consulting Consortium to kickstart our M&E program. And they created a set of guidelines and tools and resources for webinars and training, all of which are trying to support what we like to call the do, measure, learn approach. As you're implementing, you're tracking what you're doing, you're learning from what you did, improving what you do until you reach your goal. So there's a comprehensive indicator system. We got 48 indicators here across 5 dimensions. And as you see here, these dimensions are the urban form, the real estate aspect, mobility, how are we doing? How is this real estate change actually affecting the travel behavior? The institutional side, because TOD takes decades sometimes. And as Pablo pointed out, you need to set a policy framework before you can expect these changes to occur. So we have tracking of the institutional aspects, the zoning, the planning, the regulatory side of value capture and so on. The socioeconomic, are we achieving these co-benefits that we talk about? People have happier lives, they have more green space, they feel safer, they have more access to different amenities. And then of course, we also have to track the environmental impact of the NAMA. Now we realize that most cities don't have the details on all of these indicators, 48 different things, or if they do, they're in different departments everywhere. So this M&E system was designed to accommodate different capacities for the cities. And you can see on the left side, right, we have 3 levels, right? Level 1, 2, and 3, and they increase in detail. And the hope is that a city will begin, if they don't have all the data, they'll be able to get the first level of data. And as they start to implement projects, as they learn what they're doing and they gain help from CUDOT, they'll be able to start collecting data at the different levels until finally everybody will be working at level 3. We can only hope. In the guide and the guidance that is set up with the toolkit, there's a lot of recommendations for methodologies. There's a lot of default data. So everybody has a common base to start from. And for each of those 48 indicators, the guide offers a detailed sheet of how to collect this. So if you have a question about the first indicator, you can go to this guidance and at least have some hint of how to start collecting this data, how often you might want to report it, and so on. All of this is built into a clear structure for this process for reporting and who reports to who. We have both the do, measure, learn side helping the cities, and we have the MRV side, which feeds directly into the national monitoring system, which then will report into the United Nations system about the actual results on the greenhouse gas side. So this has all been designed and thought through, and hopefully as we move forward with the NAMA and projects start to be implemented, they'll be able to move through this system and start to institutionalize the reporting structure that we've designed here. CUDOT is going to be a key player in all of this, in the capacity building and support for the cities, and as an interface between the cities and the national reporting system. You can see on the right some of the different aspects that have been prepared for this, the toolkits, the working groups, right? And a key down there is the budget. There's planning to have some sort of support for the cities, as certainly as part of their implementation, but hopefully beyond that as part of the national policy to support the collection and analysis of data on urban form and how this is affecting travel behavior and hence greenhouse gas emissions. So everyone should be working together on that. And as I say, it's part of the COMPES proposal. It's part of the policy roadmap that's been set up for this. So we're hoping that this system will promote climate progress. It'll press all these buttons of transparency and accuracy and exhaustivity and so forth, and lead to a future with more TOD and more efficient implementation of TOD projects. So that's a brief overview of our MRV, and I think we're ready to move to the next speaker.
Good. Thank you very much, Chuck. And Ned Helm, I'm going to unmute you. I think you have to unmute on your system now, and then you can give us some reaction to all of this. Ned, I believe you're still muted on your side. Tell you what looks like Ned is not able to unmute just now. So Dirk, I will turn to you and unmute you and show your slides. One moment. Okay. Dirk, I think you can unmute on your side, and then I will share your slides.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, here I am. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes,
I'm start.
and I will
Great.
presentation.
Yeah, perhaps sort of while the presentation is still loading, the input from our side sort of is basically the result of brainstorming of Katharina Hess, who is the project manager for KfW in Colombia on the transport-related projects, who's working in Frankfurt. Sonia Piwek, who is our coordinator at the Bogota office, so the representation of KfW in Colombia, and myself. So Steve, if you could move us to the next slide, just to sort of give you a very brief overview about who we are. As part of the KfW group, the Development Bank finances long-term investment in developing countries and emerging economies. And we do this on behalf of the German federal government and primarily the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. And it's good to see that projects related to urban development, to transport, particularly sort of ambitious projects that are now trying to link sectors like the TOD projects are actually sort of becoming an increasing attention by German international development cooperation. It's great to be part of that from our side. Moving on to the next slide. Having said sort of that KfW is a bank or a development bank, of course, that means that we offer loans, we offer money, but we do that as at favorable terms and conditions because, of course, the development orientation ambition that we have. But we do much more. We carry out project planning and preparation, like feasibility studies, and that's, of course, part of the work that we're looking forward to do with FinDeter. With funds from German government, we promote and provide consulting and support in the field of environmental and social impact assessment, which is also becoming a very important aspect of international work. We have technical expertise. Sort of, I'm representing this technical expertise as the sector specialist for transport, working on the project. We develop capacities and knowledge to help implement and operate the project once they are built. And of course, we are part of global networks and initiatives in the transport sector. For example, some of you may have heard about the Transformative Urban Mobility Initiative, the TUMI, which is a global initiative. So we benefit from our extensive sector network to meet the needs of partners and customers. Moving on to the next slide and the project. Of course, KfW will be working, and sort of we're happy sort of that we have been already part and invited sort of by FinDeter and by CCAP to be part of the previous steps that have been explained so far. But of course, we will be working with FinDeter and particularly also with Ciudad, which has been mentioned several times as a real asset at FinDeter. And of course, in close cooperation with the NAMA facility in the second phase of the cooperation program, which is about implementing first TOD pilots in Colombia. And it has been stressed, the objective really is to finance pilot projects that have a demonstration effects for the whole of Colombia. So in Spanish, we would say proyectos emblemáticos, and that can then be replicated or spread in terms of the approach of TOD further in Colombia, so that more and more cities opt for this approach. And of course, the ultimate objective here is to help to support the NDCs and the SDGs, and of course, make a significant contribution to the reduction of CO2 emissions. So how do we do that? Maybe we can move on to the next slide. So as we have seen in the previous presentations, the pre-feasibility studies as results of the implementation of the technical component of the Colombia TOD NAMA are now available. Steve, maybe you can move on to the next slide if that would be possible. Sorry to rushing you through this presentation, but I thought it's good to sort of be quick so that we have enough time for question and answers. So FINDETER and Ciudad will make available the results of the studies and of course the monitoring and evaluation system and the guidelines that have been developed to both national governments and to the municipalities to continue the promotion of TOD initiatives throughout the country. In parallel, with the termination of the technical component, the pre-feasibility study sort of more or less done, or done practically, sort of together we work on the development of feasibility studies with non-reimbursable resources and counterpart funds from each city sort of that now wishes to move forward from the pre-feasibility to the feasibility stage. So the important thing really is to access this cooperation and the resources. The project must be justified at the pre-feasibility level, and in that sense also approved by Ciudad and board and of course the KfW, sort of as the co-financing institution here. And once these feasibility studies are in, sort of, we will also move the projects or the pilots to the implementation in terms of detailed design and construction of the pilot projects with a subsidized credit rate. This implementation schedule is ambitious. I mean, after all that fantastic groundwork that has been laid and that took really a lot of effort and time, sort of the plan that we have for implementing the pilot projects is to have this done by the end of the year 2023. Moving on to the next slide, the cooperation resources shown quickly here for the financial component of the project are made available by KfW. They correspond to a total of about 10 million euros, and there has been sort of an agreement signed between Germany and Colombia on these resources in 2017. These resources will allow us to develop feasibility studies for projects linked to the Colombian TOD NAMA, such as those presented in Cali, Manizales, Pasto, Bogotá, and sort of John has mentioned sort of the project in Medellin that would also be a prospective candidate. So these are sort of, this is the collection of cities sort of that we are hoping to sort of work with in the feasibility stage. And for the feasibility studies, we have about €1 million that will be redistributed equally among the pilot projects. And in addition, there are €9 million available to allow us to subsidize the credit rate for the implementation of pilot project, because we foresee that since this is sort of first time of implementing these challenging types of projects, sort of it is important to see sort of that we can incentivize the implementation to some extent. So moving on to the next slide, which is also, I think, my last slide here. So the important thing, and that's the next step to do, and something we're working on, is to sign a framework agreement with the municipalities and FINDETER. And I think this is really sort of the next step that will take us then to move on to the execution of the feasibility studies and the design and the construction. This ends my presentation. Maybe Steve, you can move on to the very last slide that I have. This is simply showing sort of how you could get into contact with us at KfW, at our office in Bogota. And sort of I cannot underline more sort of how happy we are as KfW to sort of be part in such a challenging, but I find also very rewarding type of project that CCAP and FINDETER sort of have worked on, so dedicated. Yeah, we are really looking forward to taking it into the next phase. Thank you very much.
Dirk, thank you very much. Really appreciate your presentation. And again, suerte on the next steps. Turn it to now our final speaker, Ned Helm, to take us home. You're on, Ned.
Okay, Steve?
Yep.
Good. Okay, great. Thanks for the opportunity to do this. It's really fun to watch and see where this has gone over the years and the amount of progress you guys and see about and the folks at Columbia have made with this program. It's really quite refreshing to see that the projects that were selected in the initial selection process with Columbia have come to fruition and really delivered. What I do is sort of zoom out again. You zoomed in now in terms of specific on the ground in Colombia. Now I can zoom out back to the broader context of what this NAMA means for the broader effort on climate and on sustainable development and so on globally. We started working CCAP in 2011 with Germany and with the UK on the design of the NAMA facility. And we were after all the work we've done in developing countries with a model that would create for developing countries a win-win situation where they would get greenhouse gas benefits, but they would also get sustainable development, social policy benefits, and make this attractive for developing countries in the near term, not some long, far off in the distance kind of project, but an effort to really produce benefits immediately. And so working with the Germans, we basically were able to convince them of the importance of sustainable development and social policy as part of the equal goals of what would be selected as the NAMAs. And that happened. The Colombia TOD NAMA was one of the first, like this Steve mentioned. It was a very competitive process. Countries from around the world, vice ministers all came to Denmark and gave their presentations. We had 2 vice ministers from Colombia, Nicolas Estupiñán from Transport Ministry at that time, and the head of the Environment Ministry at that time, Ambiente, from Colombia. And they won. And the project was, as you know, you've heard the description how it worked. And it was one on the grounds of sustainable development benefits, social benefits, GHG benefits, buy-in of the local country, which is really important. Steve laid out here earlier how significant we felt Colombia was in terms of the amount of investments making in BRT and transit, and that there was an opportunity here, as you've seen, to build the TOD NAMA, the TOD side of this equation, and create even larger benefits, and have the leverage, which I know our colleague from KFW was very interested in. And the fact that you got $1.5 billion US leverage from those first 3 projects potentially is fantastic, fantastic. And the other piece of this was traditional development aid was never about climate. And those agencies were very threatened by the climate game, both in Germany and in many other donor countries. And this was a way to bring those things together. So the social development, sustainable development kinds of goals, along with the climate goals, could both be met. So that was and this project above all the others really showed that. Because again, it was looking not just at short-term greenhouse gas benefits, but at long-term investment in the way in which you change the footprint for the next 20 and 30 years, not just for the next year or 2. Because traditionally, the aid to developing countries have always been about quick one-offs, capture the methane from a landfill and score the credits and sell them to the developing countries or to the developed nations or to the companies in those nations. So this was a chance to really change those things. And we all did that. I listen to you guys and I say, hey, we met all the goals you guys had set in the first place. We really delivered on all those different things and are in the process of completing that delivery process. But one thing I also want to talk about is the process piece of this in Colombia. And the fact that you had the vice ministers of all those agencies, ministries working together, and you had an independent CIDA, was not just a bureau buried in some ministry or in Singapore. It was a set of experts answering to a panel, an executive committee of key vice ministers, which is incredible. And we thought that was really important, and I think all the ministers felt that was important. As you've seen, with any government, lots of turnover of ministers, lots of turnover of presidents, lots of turnovers, but this policy and this set of ideas has stayed the course and made it true. And I remember in the early days, the very first set, we had a set of similar principles that the ministers came up with to judge the competitive proposals from Columbia cities, and the 3 or 4 that won were the best. And at the time, there was a couple of others, one in particular, that a very weak proposal scored poorly on the criteria we set up. It was an attempt by a couple of board members to push that through the old world of, that man's a friend of mine, you got to get some money. And that was defeated. Nicholas in particular stood up to it, went to the other ministers. We can't do this. We've got to set the principle that this is about meeting the criteria, about a competitive process, not about a little money in everybody's pocket, you know, spread it around and we're all happy that every city got a little bit of money. And that really was important and stayed the course. I think it's really exciting to see how well you stayed the course that way. One lessons I took away, this takes time. Steve said it earlier. In 2013, we won the competition in German NAMA. Here we are 2020, 7 years later. We thought we'd get results in 3 years. Well, that was incredibly naive, as we know. All of you do transfer, you know that's a problem. But nonetheless, you know, we were able to deliver over time and stay the course. So for CCAP, that meant continuing to fund this when the money seemed to be shaky, you know, and make a commitment to make this go in the same way with our Colombian partners. Integrated that deep and made sure that CDI could survive and some of the other ministries helped out. It was very important to build that independence and expertise. You can see it from the two previous presentations today. You see what independence and expertise we've developed. You've developed here in Colombia. Very exciting. I was encouraged by Bogota coming in at the time of the selection process back in 2015, I guess. Bogota had a mayor who was not on good terms with the president of the country, and so Bogota didn't participate. It's nice to see them in. They had the best opportunities. It just didn't have the right political shade at that time. And so it's really exciting to see them. And it's exciting to see Marine leave and come back. That's quite you know, a signal of how powerful the process and the stuff you built is. I think the key here, as Steve said, see it out as a legacy. You've got this independent body. You've got a good intergovernmental process, your ministerial process, really good stuff. The test now is, will we be able to sustain the financing? Will Colombia be able to put the dollars up to finance the next round, next competitive round among other cities, to build on this first set of investments? It's going to be a very powerful set of investments. And the timing is very good for that question, because what we're seeing around the world, the EU last week voted a much tougher target for the EU, 55% reduction by 2030, incredibly tough. And they're going to do it through mobilizing their resources into infrastructure. It's not just, you know, regulations. It's about pouring the infrastructure dollars, the Green Deal, as we call it here in the U.S., and a similar name in Europe. Those investments, which is great fun because we got COVID, we got the economic problems that COVID's created. There's a big opportunity to move money significantly into new infrastructure, new jobs, and so on. And TOD can be a big piece of that. That's the long-term piece of this opportunity. So I'm very excited. Here, thank God, we've got Biden as president now, and he has made a clear signal that he will go for a big relief package for COVID, and a big plank of that will be investments in things like TOD and things that bring us climate benefits as well as development benefits as well as social policy benefits. You see the same thing in Europe, and I think Colombia had a chance to do the same thing with some of the money that was given to the peace agreement. Again, there's opportunity between COVID and the peace agreement to leverage significant investment to make it. And that's the only way we get to the goals of net carbon zero by 2050. We have to really turn over our infrastructure, and transport is one of the key places. So I'm just excited. It's really neat to be awake for a few years and see how far you guys have taken it, how even the Colombia case, we had great man Guerrero back when we did this. He couldn't run again. His term was up. He couldn't run for re-election. We were worried that would go away. I was really excited to see the Green Corridor is moving. Perhaps not with as much money as we might have had when he was there, because he was really good to put big shoulder to the wheel from Cali, but very excited it's happening. So again, just having somebody come away from it after being away for 3 or 4 years, very exciting. Great job. Thank you. Feels good to see it. And thank you, Steve, for inviting me.
Great. Well, Ned, thanks very much. Appreciate your comments, and appreciate everyone's patience. We went over a little bit, but again, grateful for the good work, great presentations from my colleagues in Colombia, from Chuck, comments from Dirk, and Ned. Will be sharing the recording of this online. And there are all sorts of materials, the reports, the documents, going up on CCAP's website, on CUDOT's website, for those who want to learn more about the NAMA, and can follow up if you have additional questions. So with that, I will close the webinar. I'm sorry we didn't have time for the Q&A, but you can reach out to me and the team and be happy to have further discussions. Thanks again for your participation, and wish you a good day.
Thank you.